Welcome to In ShawScope, the monthly show where we dive into and swim through the river of Shaw Brothers.
Yes.
And a very long river it is.
Yes. Darren insists on appearing diagonal for this.
Not that anyone can see him since this is a podcast. Anyway.
I get confused what's a podcast and what. Yeah, you carry on being diagonal, Darren.
I am appearing live from Pisa in Italy.
Or it's that Dutch Batman, you know.
That's it. Yes, that's right. And anyway, so your hosts for In ShawScope are myself, Darren Jones, him over there in Japan.
Clive Davis.
And him over there. Oh, go on.
And myself, Nick Sheehan, here on
very keen.
beautiful Prince Edward Island.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why he's keen. Is because he's covered himself in oil to be quick.
Right.
And slippery, yes.
And very slippery, yes.
Yeah. So that brings us to today's selection. So why don't you clue the listener in, Darren? Because this is a very exciting episode, I think. What are we going to be talking about today?
Well, today we are going back, first of all, to 1956 and over to Malaysia for the Malaysian arm of the Shaw's output. And we are doing the original Oily Maniac film. We are doing Curse of the Oily Maniac, otherwise known as, and prepare for me to butcher this, SUMPAH Orang MINYAK. Yeah, hopefully we don't have any Malaysian listeners, otherwise they're going to kick our ass on the pronunciation. And then we're following up 20 years.
That's a bit strong, Darren. I hope we don't have any Malaysian listeners.
Well,
I hope we do, and that your pronunciation was fine. I think was probably.
It sounded good to me, for all that I know about
the
Malaysian language.
Whenever I mispronounce something as well, because I've got, as does Clive, a fairly strong Welsh accent, then I just blame it on my accent. Yeah, well, I've got an accent, you know.
Right.
So I think we have immunity from prosecution for mispronunciation.
If you are listening from Malaysia, welcome. Ignore Darren. You're allowed to listen.
And thanks for the legend of the Orang Minyak, Malaysia, because it's a great story.
Yeah. So we're starting off in 1956 in Malaysia, and then we're heading back to Hong Kong for the Shaw Brothers, Oily Maniac from 1976.
Yes. And this is us starting to. I think this will happen a little bit more often in these early shows. So yes, as Darren alluded to, we are slowly going through the Shaw Brothers catalogue in more or less chronological order. But because these early years are slightly more spotty in terms of availability, especially when we're talking the Malaysian stuff, then we might be jumping around in time a little bit. And this is a solid double. This is not. This doesn't feel like papering over the cracks. Doing these two feels just right, doesn't it? I think.
Oh, this is perfect. Yeah. Just before we came on air, we were talking about how much we loved watching these films and preparing for this podcast, because this is up a number of streets for all of us, isn't it? It's ticking all the right boxes in a few of our lives, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, I think anyway.
Yeah. No,
yes, that is not to say that we are all serial rapists.
No.
But we are quite greasy.
yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Definitely, we're oily fellows. No question.
My
T-zone is particularly greasy.
Yeah, it gets quite hot here in the summer as well. So I'm definitely greasy in the summer.
Yeah, we've all got a good shine on.
Yeah. Yes.
Got a sheen.
Once again, we're also not racist either. Just
nope.
No.
I was going to say that I didn't know about this P. Ramlee fellow before this. So were you already? I mean, Clive seems to know everything about everything when it comes to cinema. Were you aware of the works of P. Ramlee?
I knew of him, but I didn't know much detail, and I hadn't seen anything. But I know he's a name that looms large. But so before we get into the specifics, I think we should maybe address what the Orang MINYAK is or isn't or might be, because it's, me and Darren were discussing this a little bit earlier off air as well. It's a little bit confusing as to the origins, especially if you're doing your research in English and neither Malay or Indonesian, right? Because this seems to be one of those things as well that is shared, across Malaysia and Indonesia, right? Like the Kuntilanak and the Pontianak and the Chaswe and all those, which are other things we'll get to, I'm sure, as well. Mongs in Pontiacs and all that. So,
but it is it's an interesting bit of folklore, isn't it?
Yeah, well, because
it's a thing. This is not.
Yeah.
Well, but this isn't made up.
It pre-exists the film for sure, and it seems to have a real. It's not an urban legend. I guess it's more of a rural legend, although it seems to be in both, actually, because in the two movies we see, one is set in a rural setting and one's in a city. But this greasy slender man, greasy old slender man.
So this is one version of it, right? So the one version of it is that it's an ancient bit of myth or folklore about basically and again, I don't know what the origin story of him, or if he just comes fully formed as like a yokai or a monster or one of the fairy folk or something like that. But it's a greased up or oiled up serial rapist, right?
Yeah.
I just now imagine that leprechauns, greasy oiled little leprechauns, scampering all over Ireland, climbing in people's windows.
Get your bloody hands off me, Orang MINYAK! So there's that version, which positions it as some kind of just an ancient as far as I know, there's not that many ancient rapist monsters. Like, you don't hear much of things come along.
No. I think Zeus was predominantly a rapist. But myth has its rapists. But I agree.
Yeah, but Zeus is one of the good guys.
Yeah,
so that's fine then.
Yeah. But also a rapist.
Make your mistake, Nick. Zeus is real as well. You're getting.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
But yes, and then I guess there's this line between this mythological version of the oily man, and then the possibility that there were just sketchy people running around covered in oil, grabbing people. Right?
Yeah, which apparently makes them. I guess the idea is difficult to catch, right? So if you're running out of someone's house after having a wicked way with their wife, then they can't grab you. Which is funny as well, because it also brings in the element of slapstick comedy to the very unfunny world of rape and sexual violation, right?
Yes. And somebody does ask the question of surely it makes turning doorknobs and not just falling on your face increasingly difficult when you're oiled up. Well, but it did also bring to mind,
because he's supposed to be acrobatic as well, isn't he? And can scale walls and things, which you think would be more difficult. But so that's the thing is, so yes, if it's the urban myth version that is just a wily rapist, again, that makes a rapist sound like a bit of a scoundrel more than
cartoon character,
criminal. Yeah. But anyway, the wily rapist, it's either that makes sense. But if it's a mythological creature, I suppose it doesn't matter. I suppose the oiliness or whatever is.
Yeah.
So he can scale walls, and he's like a comic book character or something, right? So I don't know. Do either of you have any? Because obviously we don't know for sure. Do either of you have any instinctive? Do you come down on one side or the other? Do you think this is something that was born of the mid 20th century, and then they retconned this mythology behind it? Or do you think this is actually a piece of ancient folklore?
Personally, I think it's probably of, if not the 20th century, certainly colonial. So for me, the hallmarks of, or some of the hallmarks of the oily man, Orang MINYAK, are he's all oily, might be supernatural, but importantly, he rapes virgins.
Right.
And I don't think that, well, I'm no expert on culture and mythology from this region, but prizing virginity in that way seems to be a reasonably Christian concept, or Muslim concept, as in, in Malaysia in particularly, or in the Muslim world.
Right. So you're not.
So my instinct, completely uneducated in this region and in this folklore and religion, for that matter, seems to my gut kind of says, yeah, this is a bedtime story to scare your virgin daughter, into being a good girl, or to marry whoever she's meant to marry, or whatever, or the oily man's going to come and get you.
It does seem to have gone Malaysian viral to the point where, like they say, I mean, because obviously some of the most recent newspaper stories or online stuff comes from 2012, right? And that there are these, whether they're true or not, these tales of like young women still dressing in kind of like dowdy, frowsy clothes, or wearing their boyfriend's sweaty clothes to kind of signal hormonally that they're not virgins, right?
I would contest that a little bit, though, even though it's kind of because I think that the prized virginity thing isn't that pretty much a global thing? And I mean, certainly here in Japan, for instance, that would have been and we were never colonized. That would be part of our indigenous heritage. I think a kind of reverence for virginity. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm happy to be proven wrong or disagreed with on that. That's I'm just talking from my gut more than anything.
Right. So it's so in general, regardless of that aspect of it, then maybe it feels like you think it might be a more recent thing rather than an old bit of business.
I was surprised by how fully fleshed out when we talk about the first movie here in a moment, how there's a lot going on. Like there's a lot of world building and myth making, and it's a lot more than just. In fact, I was kind of surprised when we were getting to near the end of the movie. It's like, is the oily maniac going to appear?
Yes,
right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kind of stuff, and I don't know where all that comes. It's very fairy tale like for quite a lot.
And a lot of that stuff seems familiar from other myths and legends as well. We'll get to that. There's a kind of a time difference thing which seemed from other Southeast Asian mythology. So that's why I'm wondering if it was, rather than there's this ancient legend, that it might be that they were real oily maniacs, not supernatural in so much there were some serial rapists who went out covered in oil so they wouldn't get caught, got in the newspaper headlines, and there were some copycats, and then someone hit upon the idea of making the film, but then they were like, oh, shall we add the supernatural angle to it? And thus it was born in more recent years than some people would have us suggest. I don't have a gut on this, to be honest. I don't know. It could be either. Neither would surprise me.
I would go for older than the 50s.
Right.
Simply based on these kind of, a magician either made the oily man, or summoned the oily man, or transformed someone else into the oily man, or the oily man is a man who's done a deal with the devil, as in the first film.
Right, right.
So that's, that's, for me, that doesn't sound like 20th century urban myth. That sounds a little bit older, but still in that sort of colonial period.
How about you, Nick? Do you have any? We clearly need to have a wing. We need to send researchers to Malaysia. We obviously here at ShawScope, we need to send a team of So I have no idea. I mean, not a clue.
Are you suggesting we set up a sweatshop related to this podcast?
Yes, I think that's what I mean.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. But as long as we're all on the same page there. So yes. So the first film then, Sumpah Orang MINYAK, 1956, and so this is another bit of business as well. So is this a Singapore film? Is it a Malaysian film, or is it a Singapore-Malaysian co-production? This is another thing that kind of made my head spin. Is I can't for the life of me quite get my head around when Malaysia was Malaysia, or when Singapore was Singapore when it was part of Malaysia, and that's not even dealing with the Indonesian side of things. So any thoughts?
None. I took it as read that this was a domestic Malaysian production as opposed to Singaporean production, but no, I hadn't taken into account that they were one and the same at some point in history.
Well, I think the thing is, I think nowadays, we tend to think of Singapore as a region slightly independent of Malaysia, right? Whereas at one point it was capital of Malaysia, and then Malaysia apparently wasn't unified as Malaysia until the 1960s. So I'm not sure what that region would have been. It's very confusing to me. Welcome to Stupid Cast, where three men talk about things they don't know anything about.
Nope.
Yeah. We thought this was going to be easy. Yes. We thought let's look at two monster movies.
Yes, and then we know
the
entire history of the Malaysia and Singapore.
Yeah. And we have come unstuck.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, we've come unstuck surprisingly quickly in this podcast.
So maybe it's time to move on to the movies, which we did watch. And are both produced by Shaw, which I think is the
hubris happening, disintegrating before your very ears.
Yeah, but we're not stupid enough to quit.
No.
Sorry, we're not clever enough to quit.
No, stubborn. Stubborn. Yeah. Pen stiff.
Yes.
So, So anyway, 1956, and as you mentioned, Darren, the Malay film production branch. And did you notice in the opening credits they already have the Shaw Brothers shield, though, didn't they? Malay film, which is kind of neat to see, and all the credits in English as well. Which is but let's just say it's Malay language then, and made by the Singapore-based Malay film production unit, and they probably went outside to film it around Malaysia. So it's a Malaysian-Singapore co-production. We're probably on safe territory there, I think.
Yeah.
And yes, to your point, Nick, directed, co-written, starring, and I think also some of the music by Mr. Entertainment, P. Ramlee, who, from what I gathered, seems to have been someone who rose through the ranks of the Malay film production. Started, literally like a tea boy or something like that, and just slowly, and I think he's first and foremost a singer-songwriter, right? I think is his claim to fame.
Yeah, he starts off as a singer, doesn't he? He gets discovered as a singer.
Yeah, and then becomes an overall idol, I guess, and an actor. And then, eventually started directing his own film. I think this is fairly on in his directorial career, but he directed what seems to be, according to the IMDb, over 30 titles. And I'm guessing there might be more than that as well, right? Because I'm not sure how
seems to be
complete the IMDb when it comes to Malay.
Hugely prolific for a guy who died at 43.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Did he die at 43?
Yeah, it's quite an astonishing accomplishment when you look at how much, I mean, in terms of acting, in terms of music, in terms of directing, he did in a fairly short life.
Yeah, and I think I saw he wrote something like 200 or 300 songs.
Wow.
In that period as well. But also, what I noticed, when I was Googling this stranger to me, who was P. Ramlee, just the reverence that Malaysian people have for him. There's nothing, there's not a lot on the internet about him, in English language anyway.
Right.
But, they seem to talk, all the websites, including, places like Wikipedia, seem to talk about him in the same way that a Western Wikipedia article or a Western fan site or whatever would talk about Orson Welles or Cecil B. DeMille or
right. Right.
He seems to be seen, as not just a film idol or a great singer or songwriter, but he seems to be the legendary filmmaker of Malaysia.
Yeah. So also it's probably worth mentioning as well. So originally the idea behind this was we were going to watch this film raw without any subtitles because we figured, well, if we watch the Shaw Brothers' Oily Maniac from 76 again, we'll kind of be able to figure out what's going on. And Nick actually managed to find some subtitles floating around on the internet.
Although they were for a different print, so the time codes were off, so you kind of had to wait. Mouths would move, and then you have to wait a little while to hear get what they had said.
Well, that's what hotkeys are for. That's what Shift, H, J, and K are for.
Oh, I didn't know that. Didn't know there was a workaround.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know.
If you press Shift and then H when someone says something you want to match, and then when the subtitle comes along later, you hit J and then K, it automatically syncs them up. Or if it's the other way around, if the sub comes up first, I just realized I should have told you this earlier.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, you did see the conversation and interacted with the conversation where Nick and I were saying, these subtitles are shit, we can't understand a fucking word anyone's saying because there's this massive delay. At any point in the last 4 or 5 days, you could have actually said...
Well, no, you didn't mention a delay. You just said that they disappeared, you said, and they go on about
But they also, I did mention that they weren't made for the same print, so that they were... Anyway, good to know.
Yeah, for future reference.
No, we know. Now we know how to fix it.
So anyway,
but I will say, without them, I don't think you would have known. There's no way to watch Oily Maniac and Curse of the Oily Maniac and transpose and be, now I know what's happening.
Yes, so that was what I was going to say. Thank God you did find them, because otherwise I would have, as soon as that flying gondola turned up, I'd have been, what the fuck is going on? No,
I disagree with you. Actually, I disagree with you. I think because the subs were I reckon I got something like 50% of the dialogue with the way the subs were on the particular version that I'd watched, and I reckon you could very easily work that out raw. Hunchback, magic people in a boat, because I didn't understand any. The dialogue didn't do anything for me in terms of understanding who these entities actually are.
The bunny and elder, of course. Now,
exactly.
I'm not quite sure, but fair play to you, Darren. If you were able to do that well, then I would have been lost.
I would struggle a little bit too. I think.
Yeah, but they're like magic people who turn up, and it's like the fairy godmother, isn't it? It's like someone waves a magic wand and fixes him.
That's what's fascinating about the movie to me, is that it is absolutely a fairy tale for the first almost 4/5, and then it turns on a dime and suddenly it's something very different. And I love that. I love to be surprised. That nothing makes me happier than watching a movie and not knowing what I'm getting into.
Oh, absolutely.
And this is a movie where I was just, and I enjoyed everything that had come before. It wasn't like I was waiting.
No.
I mean, I was starting to wonder, is there going to be an oily maniac? Maybe not, but I'm fine with it because everything I'd seen up to that point was completely satisfying. And then the movie got real grim, real fast, and I was like, "This is awesome."
Yeah. So, should I do a quick plot rundown before? We...
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Okay.
Let the people know about Bang and Bong.
Yes.
Our two.
So here we go.
Two heroes.
So P. Ramlee, Mr. Entertainment, does play this main character who seems to be a shunned hunchback in this rural community. He's also deformed. And he also happens to be a brilliant artist, which we discover as well. And I'm still not 100% sure. So basically, he's kind of shunned by his community. Number one, because he's an ugly fucker. And also number two, because his father had murdered someone, right? Maybe someone related to the village chieftain, I think.
And caused some sort of bad blood between them and another village. So yeah. So basically, he's become a pariah figure. And they're hunting, and then he hides out at the house of a batik maker. Batik seems to be kind of like a kimono or a dress or something like that, right?
No, like a sarong. I think it's like the sarongs that they wear, isn't it?
And it's actually I think the printing itself is what batik is. So I think batik refers to actually the method of printing onto the fabrics. Yeah. So it's a big thing. It's a huge thing in Indonesia as well. It's that kind of whole area.
Right. And this is played by a guy called Idris Daing, who I think might have been a quite a big name in Malay cinema as well, I think.
He's good. So his character's called Bang Selamat.
He's got a good face. He's got a good face. I'm getting strong, and this will come up again later. He's got strong Loli vibes, I thought. He's got that kind of feeling about him.
Yeah, well, he's quite a distinguished fella as well, though, isn't he? He's kind of older Loli.
Yeah, distinguished frog. Yeah. King of the frogs.
Yeah.
And he has a great piece of dialogue. It's like I learned some Malaysian because Kain Batik Mora Mora means cheap batik here.
Yeah. No, it's always good.
So if it all falls apart in Canada, Nick.
Yeah.
Now you can set yourself up and you know how to sell batiks in Malaysia.
But I also learned you need to make sure your designs are up to date. Otherwise, the village cuties will not be impressed if you're trying to pass off last season's batik.
No, it is a very quick moving fashion.
Oh yeah. It's trend, very competitive.
Yes.
I believe I could see Jean-Paul Gaultier circling in the background, looking for things.
I will say, I love the sense of place in this movie, right from the very beginning. Like, I felt like that village was absolutely real. I mean, it may have just been shot in a real village. Although there is a scene quite near the beginning where they kind of do almost a flyby, and I was like, that seems like
I think it's a set, but they are good. They're very atmospheric.
And the constant frog noises. That really helped me.
Yeah, the music.
All the way through the movie. You got these
music
awesome
is great. This kind of flute and drum music, which is credited to someone called Yusran. And also the cinematography of this black and white by A. Bakar Ali is really good.
Yeah, very sophisticated.
Yeah, it's lovely, yeah.
We should mention as well, since because I didn't realize that this was going to be a semi-musical either. And there are some song and dance numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I guess P. Ramlee had a hand in. And I think one of the women who sings the song, someone called Rama Ramat, who was one of the village women. I think she may also be very famous in Malaysia. Again, this stuff we don't really have a handle on it, and it was difficult to confirm anything in English, right?
Yeah.
But
I totally agree with what you say about sense of place, Nick, in that it from the first second, the first second of the film, you are located in the climate of Malaysia, in this rural location with the buildings that they live in. I don't want to say huts, that sounds offensive. But Um, and yeah, absolutely, sense of place and sense of, culture as well. And it's, maybe it's me talking as an uneducated Westerner, but I certainly felt that I was looking at the culture that's incredibly different to what I'm familiar with.
Sorry,
I don't know.
Not meaning to be, I'm not trying to be funny or contentious. This is a genuine. Is the word hut offensive nowadays?
I don't think so.
Oh.
It's probably me being kind of paranoid and not wanting to.
After you offended all those Malaysians, we're telling them not to listen.
No, I don't like Malaysians.
No,
yeah, and all those Cub Scouts as well. Yeah. Who are also turning away in droves right now.
Yeah. No, I didn't want to sort of appear as if I was saying, "Oh, they're primitive" or anything like that. That was my reasoning for.
No, it looks like a great place to live, except for the fact that they really give hunchbacks a hard time.
They do, they're not very nice to hunchbacks.
I quite liked. There's a great line right near the beginning where poor C. Bongkok, who is and I think Bongkok might just mean hunchback. Because it seems like it's used in the dialogue at one point to just mean hunchback. So they've called this poor guy like hunchback. But he wants to run away, and the other guy basically says like, "Taunter's gonna taunt." Like,
right? Yeah, this is. It would be a nice place to live if it weren't for this Buyong fella.
Yeah, that guy's a dick.
Saleh Kamil is this actor, I think. And
yeah, so, a little shit he is.
He is a little shit. And so anyway, so the hunchback hides out at Idris Dang's house, and it turns out he's a brilliant artist. So he makes these new batik designs, and they sell like hotcakes, right? As soon as he takes them out, the women of the village are like, wow, and they all rush out, and they're sold, in no time at all, right?
Yes, his friend, Bang, who's the one who sells these, gets this great line of like, despite your flaw, you have a great talent inside you.
Right.
So,
right. And then, so when I finished the film, and then it was time for me to write all this episode, I realized that a lot of this stuff that I was taking notes at the beginning about the batik set, and it's all good place setting, and it's nothing wrong with it or anything, but actually it has fuck all to do with the narrative, really.
Right, except that the arts, I was really like, so later on in the movie, this whole idea of like, I have a note later on that just like the arts seemed really important in this movie because they keep coming back to this kind of like the village arts scene is sort of central to a bunch of the plot. Like
sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, yeah, I think I was gonna say what you were gonna say anyway. And yeah, the portraits, because not only does he do the batik designs, which are kind of geometric shapes and flowers and things, but he also does portraits. And there's a portrait of him and the village hottie that figures kind of early and then later.
Sri Dewi, which is a very Welsh sounding name.
It is Sri Dewi, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Dewi Sant. It was St. David's Day the other day.
Yeah, there we go. Sri Dewi.
The Welsh word for St. David's Day is Dewi Sant. Dydd Gwyl Dewi.
So he draws this portrait of him and Gwyl Dewi. And
which he titles Beauty and the Beast, or the Beast.
But again, even that, the thing is, when he brings that out, this is later on, we're kind of doing this wrong way around a little, but when he brings that out, and it's like, it's a side of it, but the thing is, a minute later he goes, yes, it is me, the formerly ugly hunchback, the artist formerly C. Bongbok or whatever. So my point is, nothing against, and it's fine, I'm happy to watch it, and it's a nice part of the movie, but the thing is, if the film had just started, shunned hunchback runs out of town and then suddenly starts dreaming of this fairyland, that would work just in terms of the narrative of, you don't really need all the batik stuff, although I'm happy it's there. It just occurred to me if you're writing up the story of this film, that's kind of a bit of an addendum kind of thing rather than a strong part of the narrative. I felt anyway. So anyway.
Or I mean, maybe it's a marker of rural society. This is me guessing. Again, there's a lot of conjecture coming from me today, but maybe it's a marker of this rural society that you have these kind of because there's this ceremony, isn't there? There's this kind of festival or ceremony.
Festival of Youth
that happens. That's it. Yeah. And you have various gifts presented by various sections of the community, don't you? Like the artists and the martial artists and the various other sectors of the community. And this is just a village, really, isn't it? It's just kind of it's not even a town; it's a little village. And maybe there's hat with loads of hats in, yes. And I'm not living that down. And but I think maybe it's a marker of just the rural life, as opposed to the city life, and maybe has more meaning to a local audience.
Could be.
Clearly, the director thought it was important enough that one of the montages of them working is actually filmed with an overlay of a batik print over it for quite a length period of the movie. I was like, they're really keeping that double exposure of batik.
Yeah, that went on a bit, didn't it? I was wondering if it was a glitch actually in my playback.
I don't think so. I think they just decided that was
also worth mentioning as well, final word on it. I'm talking about it a lot considering I'm also making a case for it not being part of the narrative. But there's a nice bit of hard sell as well. Like when he comes out with these new batiks and they're selling like hotcakes, one of his lines of dialogues is, if you don't buy these now, you will regret it until Judgment Day.
Well,
hard sell for his batik.
Jen just came over with a thing she looked up on her phone that said basically there's a whole philosophical element. They are almost a religious set of designs and prints, so they have a meaning. Like there are specific meanings to specific prints. So maybe it's bigger than we know.
Yes.
I mean, if we think too about,
we still don't know if that is connected to the MINYAK thing or not. But that's the thing, right? If it's just the MINYAK stuff's been bolted onto this other stuff, or if it's intrinsic, we're still not any nearer to knowing that, right?
But what little I know of Islamic art as well is that it tends to be very based in geometric forms and very based in calligraphy, right? Partly because of the rules around not depicting the human form. And so, and I mean, Allah is mentioned by name later in the movie, right? So there's no question this is coming from an Islamic kind of worldview. So again, I don't know enough about batik prints to speak authoritatively, but obviously there's meaning.
Nick, that hasn't stopped us in the past on this podcast.
No, never.
Not knowing anything about something to go on about it.
I did do a course, but the problem is it's so long ago. I did a course in Southeast Asian art and where we talked about batik, where I did a course in Indonesian and Malaysian art way back during my my master's in art history. But what do I remember any of this? No, I don't.
It's a shame that story would have ended somewhat. It would have been a nice until now I never thought it would come in use.
Finally, I can apply those lessons.
No, I forgot everything.
Yeah. I mean, I would guess that the batik stuff and the kind of village life
spending
stuff.
So much time talking about the fabric. I think this is great. Given what this movie is all about, I'm loving this.
There's monsters in it. There's the devils in it.
Yep. Yes. Fairy tales.
There's fairy land. The
Bunyan elders, whoever they are.
Yeah.
Listen into the Good Housekeeping Does Shaw Brothers
Fabric Special Edition.
Yes.
But no,
some of the doilies in this film are extraordinary.
But I think for me that seems to have sort of because the mythology that I managed to pick up, the stuff I managed to read in English about the myth or the folklore of the oily man, didn't seem to have any links with any of this other stuff that seems very important in the film. So for me that seems to be, and particularly and I know it's got butchered because it's gone back to Hong Kong in the second film, but there's none of that in Oily Maniac either.
No.
So for me that seems to be sort of P. Ramlee fleshing it out, giving it a little bit of kind of colour
It was. I'm trying to think. It was like if someone had made. I don't know. If someone had made a film about like Son of Sam or something, but then had tried to connect it to, vampire mythology or something like that.
And Andy Warhol's Factory.
Yeah, which is actually not a bad idea. That sounds like a film I'd watch.
Well, what's it? Oh shit! What's it called? What's the Udokia Dracula film called? Blood of Dracula.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, there is a direct connection there, of course. Yeah,
yeah. So anyway, so once we get all the fabric out the way, which is fabulous. So I guess the Hunchback has a I don't know. It's like an intervention, a heavenly intervention, or.
I mean, I think there's a few things worth mentioning before. Like, I think there's a pretty grim scene where the town jerk and his buddies, they pull up in their canoes, right, and they're harassing the women.
Stolen canoes. Canoes.
Yeah, and then they chase poor Bangkok into the jungle, and then the whole town, including like little kids, pelt him with fruit, and and then the women of the village intervene and are like, "Hey, leave the poor guy alone." Right.
I was waiting for the scene where Byung ram raids the supermarket with his stolen canoe.
Yeah, because he was a real canoes. Sorry.
Go no, yeah, he was a real chabby piece of.
Yeah, because it's as if in this film the canoes are like hot rods.
Right.
You know what I mean? And these are like the hoodlums.
You can imagine them kind of lining up with some lights at the end of the Yeah, he's like a juvenile delinquent of rural Malaysia, isn't he? Yeah.
They have no interest in batik at all, these guys.
No.
Fuck uncultured swine.
Yes.
But then we have the arts festival, and then he shows up with the painting that he's made for, and he does have a crush on, and she's not just the village cutie, but she's also the village chief's daughter, right?
Right.
Yeah, and he gives her the painting, and then this jerk comes out and goes full, whatever his name is from Back to the Future, Biff Tannen. Yeah, and really gives him a hard time. And she basically tells him, like, it's in your own best interest, for your own safety, you should leave town. And at that point, he's really crushed because he's been rejected in every way. Goes off, and then it gets.
But he does have time to stop and say to Afida that he is her density, right?
That's true. Yes. And then things this is when the movie's already been really interesting, but then things just go sideways when we have this rain of like supernatural blossoms that kind of
and just to stretch the metaphor further, he does kind of find a DeLorean as well, right?
That is true, and there's time travel as well.
Yeah,
I think about it.
But clearly, Robert Zemeckis ripped off Sumpah Orang Minyak for it's concrete, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, there's the flux capacitor.
Yes.
That's being pulled, by a rope on the gondola.
Yeah.
By the little heavenly host.
So there is a flying gondola.
My jaw dropped when this whole thing rolled out.
It's lovely as well. I really like.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Green. Yeah.
And this is what I want to mention now, right? Because I know I'll gush too much at the end, but this film is so adorable, so quaint, so cute. There's just this absolutely fairy tale quality with it, with a bit of nastiness at the end. That it's just it's like watching, I hate Disney animations, but it's like watching a good Disney animation.
Okay, so this is interesting. So my notes from this part of the movie say crazy clouds, Sam Raimi like lightning, monsoon rains, Bangkok collapses in mud, sudden Disney choir music, magic realist flower petal rain. And so, it really did have that sense of utter fantasy. Like you completely lose yourself in the strangeness and the beauty of this moment.
Yeah. Incidentally, I didn't realise this until I'd seen a scene later on, but just in case it has a bearing, where he kind of falls down and starts, freaking out and despairing before the rain turns into petals. That's a grave. So it looks like that might be like his father's grave.
Ah, right.
Okay.
Because I didn't realise it was a grave because it's like 2 posts and a little mound. But I saw later on in the film. The same structure is a grave. So
right.
We can probably assume that's his dad's grave, which adds a little bit of flavour, I think.
So he's...
And then...
Oh, no, go on.
The canoe, the moment when the canoe starts, it almost becomes like a UFO as well. This strange, when it kind of lifts off the ground and floats around. Anyway, go ahead, Clive.
Yeah, so he is taken to the land of the Bunyan, who seem to be, kind of forest-dwelling sprites or something like this, apparently. But they also obviously dwell in some kind of heavenly place. And he's accepted, he's given love, he's given a hot princess for a lover, who also falls in love with. He's a bit fickle.
Yep.
Because he's and to me it's a bit of unfair because they don't deliberately pull this trick on him, I think. But as soon as he turns up, they show him this. Look at this book. Read this book. Show if you do what they say in this book, you can be super handsome. You can turn into P. Ramlee, basically. And P. Ramlee, who's had a face wash, is basically what he turns into.
Yeah.
And he's taken the jumper out from the back of his sweater to give him the hunchback. And wouldn't you like to be handsome? Wouldn't you like that? Would you like to have a wish to be handsome? And he goes, yes, I would like to have a wish. And then they drop the bombshell on him later because he's enjoying himself. Oh, sorry, hunchback, former hunchback. You wished, so you got to go back to Earth now. You can't hang out with the hot princess in this lovely land. So I thought that was like, they didn't give him the full story as soon as he arrived, did they?
Yes, yeah.
I understand it's the whole, the moral part of the story, but still, I thought that was a little bit sneaky of the Bunyan to tell him it that way round, right?
Yeah, I had the same reading, except a crueler reading of it, because some of the bit of dialogue I luckily caught with the dodgy subs was, first of all, he wants to take the princess back with him. So as soon as he's been transformed and he's fallen in love with the princess, he wants to take the princess back to Earth with him, or back to the human realm or whatever. And the first thing the Bunyan tell him is, well, she can't, because fish can't live on land.
Yeah.
As if, well, she's a spectral being, so she can't come to Earth.
Right.
And then he says, yeah, but you only had one wish.
Yeah, you could have made that.
That's like a double zinger, isn't it?
Fucking
you could have wished for her. Yeah.
Yes, if you just held off.
Yeah. And how many rapes do they wait for until they come and sort it out at the end? Yeah. They let that go on quite a while. Yep. And they also, that he is given a warning too at this point. When he gets his handsomeness, they tell him, like, don't be envious and don't take the life of another, otherwise you will be doomed. So there's a little foreshadowing here. Don't go back and be a jerk. Yeah.
Which is immediately kind of what he does. Although
almost instantaneously.
It's slightly, I do have a certain amount of sympathy because he goes back, and even though he is a little bit of a swinging dick who lords it over, here I am, look how fucking good looking I am,
Yeah. How you like me now?
Yeah, exactly. But, yes, so it turns out he's, number one, and this is the thing that plugs it into other mythology for me, is the fact that he thinks he's only been in the Bunyan realm for 3 days, and it turns out he's been there for 3 years. And isn't this in one of the iterations of the Momotaro story?
Urashimataro is the one who goes under the sea, and then
comes back. But also a version of the Momotaro as well, the peach one.
I think so, but it's it's also in Irish mythology. It's the story of Oisin who goes to Tirnanog. So I mean, it's one of those things that's very much just a feature of a lot of world myth of going to the fairyland and losing time. Coming back hundreds of years later.
Yeah, you get that. You get that in. Sorry, you get that in Welsh folklore as well, where you go to the land of the Tylwyth Teg. It's a kind of a in inverted commas Celtic thing, isn't it?
You also
as well.
If you've ever gone to a theatre to see any of the Star Wars prequels, come out
hundreds of years take place
5 days later, like
yeah.
But it's a common thing. Yes, but it's interesting that it's. I was kind of surprised when that popped up because I was okay, so that's that I didn't realize that was
But it does allow them then the excuse. It allows them the excuse of why the village chief's daughter has now decided to be fiance to the prick
MINYAK
from like 2 scenes ago. In a way, we have at least we can give her the benefit of that. Like, well, maybe he turned out to be nicer in those 2 years. Maybe because otherwise it seems really cold. She just kicks him out. Get out of here, hunchback, and immediately gets together with the guy who's been bullying him the whole time.
Girls do like these bad boys, though. That's the thing.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but I like the entrance as well. So when he makes his entrance, because he's dressed in all this finery as well. So so everyone else in the film is kind of dressed, regularly. They all wear the kind of batik kind of sarongs and have kind of stuff in their, have like a scarf in their hair or on their head and like a kimono-y kind of thing on their top. And he comes in, in this kind of silk, kind of princely garb, doesn't he?
It's a full strut,
Oh yeah, and he's rocking it, isn't he? He's like
Errol Flynn's in the room, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And they're singing a great song about "Oh Clever Dancing Pot Lid" at this point as well, which is really like I don't know what that's about, but it seemed cool.
Yeah. I think I can't remember. Yeah, at the time, and I know I didn't write it down, but there seemed to be some good analogy between dancing and like a lid of a pot for that. That's kind of boiling and bubbling over. And that's pretty good. But yeah, there's a particular moment where there's like this kind of arch, flower covered arch or vine covered arch that he just kind of stands in between and basically radiates his magnificence from, isn't there?
Right. The song is not good. It's worth mentioning.
Yeah, the song's pretty good. Yeah.
But he does start to harangue them at a certain point where it definitely is hey pricks, it's me.
Yeah. He's got that slight. He's still got the chip on his.
Oh yeah, hunchback.
Not let. Very big chip. Yes. A whole potato, I would say. Sack of them. So anyway, that's more offensive than Huts, I'm sure.
Probably.
Anyway, so
our hunchback audience is definitely turning off.
Yeah, we pissed them off now.
Our Malaysian hunchbacks and Huts are never listening. Good riddance to them. So anyway, they'll come back one day when they're handsome and lauded over our podcast.
Yeah.
So,
but they'll get their comeuppance in the end because hubris.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, so it turns into, I mean, there's no need to go into it, but basically it gets into a kind of dual situation. It's kind of inevitable, right?
He finds out that previous love of his life, because he's just come back from
like I said,
2 years with the other girlfriend. But anyway,
he's a little bit he's flaky.
Fickle.
Yeah, he's fickle. But then again, I mean, he's been a shunned hunchback all her life, and he's suddenly drowning in pussy. So I can't blame him. He's like,
right.
Yeah.
So then, there's a great machete fight.
Good.
But then,
that had a bit of Shaw Brothers about it, didn't it?
Yes.
No, that had a little bit of,
and in fact, I think I made a note because because he doesn't he? Yeah, he does get our Biff Tannen gets a machete right through his stomach, and I did make a note like, well, if this was a Chang Chen movie, he would just shrug that off.
Yeah. Right.
That wouldn't be a big deal.
Tie a knot in his intestine.
Yeah. But unfortunately,
but it's pretty graphic for the mid-50s as well. And there's a bit as well where he gets slashed down the face.
Yeah.
And you see a bit of, slashed down the face makeup.
Nick, you discovered as well at the last minute, we didn't have time to watch it again, a colorized version of this.
Yeah, film on YouTube, which also has the subtitles actually synced correctly.
Right.
Which would have been good to know about. But it also has pieces missing.
Well, I was wondering, did they colorize that gore, or did they just snip it out? Or
well, yeah, it seems like a lot of that stuff, that's what's missing, right? Including even one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie, so I won't get to it till we talk about it at the very end, but they cut one of the best parts of the whole movie. So
okay. Interesting.
But for ease of getting the subtitles to, but now we have your trick, and everyone else who listens to this has your trick. We're all set.
Shift HJK.
There we go.
In VLC player, that is, of course.
But then, so the girl also, she gets killed at this point, right?
Yes, she gets a knife in the back. Boyong again is just such a dick, right? Like to the very end. You can't have my girl, so he kills her, and so obviously,
and then he drives his boat into like a cart full of shit, and then all the shit goes all over him. In 3 films.
Yes. I will say this movie makes great use of weather.
That doesn't happen, just in case.
No, it does not. But this movie does make fantastic use of weather, right? Like every time there's an intense scene, you get a howling monsoon with lightning, and this is another scene where it's great use of this kind of tempestuous,
weirdly, even though that sounds the very antithesis of subtle, it's done in a way that's so of a piece you don't question it. Right?
It's great.
Like sometimes when it happens in films, you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, the weather matches the character's mindset or whatever. But in this film, it's so of a piece, right? That it doesn't. It's very theatrical and operatic, and it works really, really well, right? And
well, as soon as the flying boat shows up, and then also he has that kind of like the Lourdes bath as well that he takes, because that's how he actually gets rid of the hunchback. He gets into the big lotus bath. But yeah, as soon as they started introducing that stuff, I think you knew you were in fairy tale territory.
It wasn't even a hunchback; it was just filth that accumulated on it.
Take a sponge to yourself, for God's sake.
Have a shower.
Yeah, but with going back to the weather, what I really liked about this section of the film as well, which is where he comes back and then he gets in the fight, and then what he loses very quickly, is. As soon as he kind of, he breaks his oath or, breaks the spell or whatever it is, and the weather turns, we get it, lightning means bad shit, and all that. But this also has consequences. So he basically creates a monsoon, for the village. And then a little while later, he's wandering around and finds his only friend in the world dead. From the monsoon.
I totally caught. I mean, I made the same assumption that this is a direct.
There's some dialogue earlier as well, right, about how it's not just these events are just happening on a one-on-one level. There's lots of talk about the village being cursed and stuff as well, isn't there? So there's like an extra layer that something's going on. It's not just on a one-on-one basis, right? So of course he has to take his vengeance. So that's when the Bunyan master turns up, and he says, "No, you're not supposed to do that. We said you're not supposed to, harm anyone. So, an unusual punishment. I'm gonna turn you invisible, so no one can see how good looking you are." Which is kind of interesting. So then. He's wondering about, no one can see me, but
sort of transparent. Like it's a nice effect. They just make them kind of semi-transparent.
All the effects and production values are, as good as you would hope for.
For 56. And then added to that, made in Malaysia. You know,
I 56 low budget.
Very well.
Yeah. So he's wandering about, but one person can actually see him. But unfortunately for him, that one person is Satan. As played by Sharif Doll.
He shows up looking sort of human at the beginning, but then suddenly walks behind a tree, and then we get the full paper mache devil mask, goatee thing.
Yeah, that's a good Satan. Satan.
He reminded me of the evil presence in the Insidious films. He looks a bit like that.
It's the kind of stripey thing on the face, isn't it?
Pagan, like pagan masky, almost Celtic-y, or like there's something about
the Oni Baba mask. Or And
I was thrown because he introduces himself, and it sounded like he said like he was Akuma Shaitan, and I was like, but the Japanese word for devil is Akuma, but that would make no sense to me that there would be a shared.
Well, Shaitan as well, right?
But that one I know is in multiple languages. Anyway.
Well, no doubt it's an amalgam, isn't it? It's an amalgam of a South Seas word for devil, or
Right.
It's also evil shite, the shite one. He is the evil one. He's going to bring a world of shite down upon you.
He is a little shit, to be fair. He is a little shit. He's not very nice. He's not very nice to our Rambo.
What I love about this scene is the way the dialogue works. The devil shows up and he's like, "Whoa, you can see me," and he's like, "Yeah, and I can even give you great power. I can make people see you again. I can give you anything you want as long as you fulfill my conditions. First, take off your clothes."
Yeah. Yeah, and then he gets in his pants.
Dialogue from the movie. I was like, "Oh, what are these conditions?"
Yeah. I tell you, this approach never works for me. Every single time I've tried it.
Have you tried it in a hut?
It might be the surroundings. Okay. Are important. No, I wouldn't use that word, Darren, because it's offensive.
Oh, okay. Right. Yeah.
Satan does a lot of hopping into trees as well. In this scene, he kind of just
the reverse fall.
Yeah, again with the Shaw brothers, the reverse jump into the tree.
So like you said, he says, get in your pants, and also this bit here's a ring. I didn't quite see the significance of the ring, but he gives him a ring, and then he says, right, that's all you've got to do is you have to rape 21 virgins in a week,
and you will be a delightful man. Is the exact quote.
Right.
Delightful.
Well, you arguably you'd be a rapist.
Yeah, you think so.
Yeah. but it's doable. 3 a day. I could do that.
All right. So the FBI, I'm sure, will also this will show up at Clive's trial now.
Yeah, this is Clive has accepted the challenge.
We accept the challenge. But the thing is, because it's rape and non-consensual, think of all the time you're saving on seduction. So that's what I'm saying. It's you don't have to waste. You don't have to take anyone out.
I knew we would eventually get here. I knew we would eventually get here.
And the fact that you're pre-greased means no uncomfortable chafing.
There we go. So there we go. So as well as the pants and the ring, we forgot to mention that bit. He does turn him, I guess, oily. Or basically, his head to toe black.
He looks to me like just a filthy Mexican wrestler. Like in this, like because that's what my takeaway was. He just looks like El Santo, just covered in.
So you're fucking insulting Mexican wrestlers now. We'll have
absolutely
listeners left.
No. I'm taking issue with El Santo. El Santo's kind of...
He's impeccable.
That's true. He's absolute purity, yes.
But El Santo is also kind of a beefy...
Yes,
beefy beefcake,
Yes.
Whereas this bloke looks like a man...
Isn't it just P. Ramley, though?
Well, I'm not sure it is P. Ramley, actually.
Maybe not.
Because he looks a bit skinnier than P. Ramley.
Okay.
I reckon that's a stuntman.
Would never rape 21 virgins either. He's a fine, upstanding member of society.
He is.
This is that moment where the movie suddenly takes like fairy tale, holy crap. Wow. We're in grim territory very quickly. Right down to like him smearing the X on their face with the oil, where you're like, whoa, like it just seems super dark. And again, for a 1956, you're like, and I really didn't see it going from 0 to 60 in no seconds flat. Like it just,
because this turned nastier than even the shady corners of Hollywood in 1956, didn't it?
Right. Yeah.
Not that it's nasty, not that it's graphic or but it's just a suggestion.
Because it's not as if they veil it. It's not as if you must make love to 21 women. No. You have to rape them. It's like, even to use that terminology is pretty strong for this period, right?
And in that way, the 76 version that we're going to talk about is actually considerably less dark in this specific aspect.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, although there's different sleaze.
Yeah.
There's a different flavor of sleaze.
Not a sleazy movie, but this element is not as dark as where this movie suddenly goes.
And it's not even the kind of the dialogue. It's you've got him looming over women, numerous women,
right?
In his leotard and black swimming cap and blackface.
Right.
You've got him looming over, and it's nothing is shown, but it's clear that there's a terrified woman underneath the oily maniac who is kind of pouncing on her,
right?
And the rape is not implicit, really.
No, and the movie does in that way. It also does fascinating things with who is our point of view character at this point of the movie, right? Because we've been sort of following Bangkok along on his travails, but at this point, it reminded me of Psycho in that way. It kind of plays with your identification. We've been identifying with Bangkok pretty much to this point, and suddenly, holy crap, he's awful. And then we get this sudden new hero who just appears out of nowhere for the last 15 minutes. The one nice guy in the village is we probably should stop this oily maniac from raping all of our 21 virgins.
But then we'll have none left. But then so the Bunyan turns up, and eventually, like you said, after a while, he doesn't turn up straight away. He's obviously been enjoying proceedings to a certain extent, and then finally, no, that's enough of that. Now, I'm gonna shrink you and put you in a glass bottle.
I love that scene. I will say though, I props go out to the village elder, who has a great, intense, sweaty, terror-soaked, kind of scene where he dies of a heart attack. Because it's his daughter who's just also been killed a few scenes before, and the whole village has gone to complete shit at this point. And he really sells the trauma that he's going through before he dies. But that shrinking scene is so cool.
Yeah,
so Doctor Who, Roger Delgado,
I was thinking Sinbad.
Yes,
that too.
Like the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, or whichever it is, where they've got the miniature princess.
Right.
Yes.
That reminded me. Yeah. But you're right. What you say, Nick, is that little scene of the chieftain who's doesn't even seem to be ill, does he? He just seems to be in grief and in having night terrors about his daughter or his life or whatever. Who just gets up, grabs a machete off the wall, and then goes on, right, I'm going to get him, I'm going to kill the orang maniac, and then just drops dead.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about this film, is there's these little bits of colour. There's these little kind of, there's these little vignettes around the kind of side of the film that doesn't seem to be directly related to the plot, but just add a little bit of, ramp up the emotions, adds a little bit of...
And there's a really strange scene that happens before the Bunyan finally comes in to intervene, where there's a kind of a struggle and somebody whacks the oily maniac in the face with a machete and he gets quite hurt. And he scampers off to the jungle where the Satan is still there, and like Satan treats his wounds with herbs. He's like, "I'm gonna get you back in the game, boy!" Like, and then sends him out again. And you're like, "What the hell?"
Yeah. Played by Burgess Meredith. Satan.
Yes. And my actual note is to what you just said. She says, "Oily man is caught like a rapey, oily genie in a bottle." So that it immediately also brought Sinbad to my mind as well.
Rapey, oily genie in a bottle. That's an album.
And then we get a moral. I love that we have a moral to it. Like the last line of the movie, like, if you insult other creatures, misfortune will befall you. This is the fault, really, of the bullies to begin with. It was a chain reaction of like,
that's how
don't be a jerk.
Violence begets violence, and trauma begets trauma. Yes.
Yeah.
All behind that message. So this was quite a bit of fun, wasn't it? This film.
It's wonderful.
Joy.
I would recommend it to anyone who's interested in having a good old time.
Quick question, Nick. Was the shrinking scene what you said there was a scene that you liked a lot?
It's gone.
Missing from the color. Is that gone? The colorizer?
Yeah. The scene of him actually, so it cuts right to him in the bottle, but the scene of him like shrinking down, kind of falling over awkwardly, which is so good, was gone for some reason. And I suspect a lot of the kind of probably the machetes to the face, that all seems to be trimmed because it's a good 5-6 minutes shorter than the version we watched.
Right. We should stress again though that it's not that it's graphic at all, but it's maybe a little edgy for 1956.
Yeah. The implied stuff is.
I'm wondering when the colorization would have been done.
I think Ted Turner was probably involved. I'm sure.
Yes, big oily maniac fan.
Yeah. We're into the 70s and 80s with the colorization, I would imagine, aren't we?
Yeah, probably.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is interesting because you don't think that that's stuff going on, but I suppose maybe in Malaysia, maybe this film is, beloved enough to warrant, because it's usually certain titles that get colorized, right, rather than stuff.
Right. Yes. Yeah. It's like showing up whatever, like the Walt Disney Hour or whatever. Coming up on Malaysian, Walt Disney Hour tonight. Curse of the Oily Maniac.
So we fast forward 20 years, 1976, and actually still in Malaysia, because this was filmed in Malaysia, I believe.
It seems like it from the cityscapes.
But strangely enough, I don't think it's set there, because the characters allude to Malaysia as being a faraway place a few times. Like, I've got you some durian. They're from Malaysia. Or
but isn't the coconut oil plant a Malaysian thing? Doesn't that set it in Malaysia, possibly?
I don't know. I mean, you'd think so, wouldn't you? But they do mention. But again, that could be a problem in the subtitles. Maybe it would seem to make more sense to be set, because otherwise, why would you go all the way to Malaysia to film it if it's set in Hong Kong?
Yeah, there's certain Islamic looking buildings and stuff, and it doesn't seem like Hong Kong at all.
But then again, I mean, I'm not sure how much in terms of, because you've got, like you said, you've got Muslim Malaysia, but then you've also got Chinese Malaysia, and then you've got a few other. Who else did I find out lives? A lot of people. Was it? I was quite surprised. There's another rather large indigenous group in Malaysia, but I forget where they're from. So, but yes, I'm assuming. Yeah, you get people of one ethnic group living in another ethnic group's enclave sometimes, and I'm not sure if it's entirely segregated or, But anyway, I'm guessing this is largely ethnic Chinese Malaysia. This is taking place. Right? But yes, so this one stars Danny Lee. And here's an interesting one of those weird memory tricks, that especially the older you get, you find out that things you thought were absolutely real memories. Just, nope, you totally made it up. So until rewatching this film, I was convinced that this film, in my memory, starred Lo Li.
Are you thinking Ku Feng was Lo Li?
No, I thought Danny Lee was Lo Li.
Danny Lee.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. For some reason, I saw this film a good while ago and have fond memories of it. But when I remembered it, I was thinking of Lo Li in the hole and the oil bubbling up and all that for some reason. Most peculiar.
Maybe it's the Black Magic thing. Because
could be.
Black Magic made around the same time, same director.
Yeah, well, Black Magic 2 was the same year as this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is Ho Meng Hua directed this Oily Maniac from 1976. Ho Meng Hua, one of those very interesting directors at Shaw, I think, who did a lot of the kung fu and sword play and stuff as well, but also this string of offbeat, weird titles like the Black Magic films and Mighty Peking Man and stuff like that. And he also made so the daughter in this film, Chan Ping, was the star of his revenge film, the rape revenge film, The Kiss of Death, which was later remade as Her Vengeance.
And Vengeful Beauty, which is very similar.
Which is a Flying Guillotine film. Is it Vengeful Beauty?
No, Vengeful Beauty is same star, Chen Ping.
Okay.
Goes around getting revenge on her rapists with a cool little kind of spear, dart shooting spear kind of weapon.
Oh, okay. What am I getting confused with then? Anyway, yes, but he made a bunch of interesting, and they seemed to like to give him the slightly offbeat gigs, didn't they? Ho Meng Hua. So Danny Lee plays in that period when he was doing all sorts of, when he was, inframan, in Killers on Wheels and stuff like that, before he just played a cop or Danny Lee, which he kind of seemed to do through the 90s, right?
And I always forget that he also produced a bunch of those great category 3s as well, like things like Dr. Lamb and Untold Story, that's him as well.
Yeah, he's a real mover and shaker of the
Renaissance man.
Yeah. But back in these days, he was already a leading man, obviously, and I suppose he's quite good looking guy. Wouldn't kick him out of bed. So he like you said, he I'm not sure if I don't think he works. Yes, he does work at this. He does work at this Coconut Grove, right? But he's in admin.
He's a lawyer. He's a lawyer, isn't he?
He's a lawyer who works for this law office, right? Who seems to be a sketchy place.
Right. Yes, sorry,
all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
I got confused because the bad guy Wang She, yes, he is a lawyer, quite right, because he's involved in the takeover of the Coconut Grove, right? But he clearly has a lot of businesses, right? So
yes.
So Danny Lee's friends with this bloke who runs a Coconut Grove, who he has inherited from his father. And yes, bad guy developers, kind of led by Wang She, come in and want to take over the business. And then Ku Feng plays an old man who works at the Coconut Grove, who has a cute daughter, Chan Ping, who does have topless scenes. It's probably worth mentioning. They're not a body double because you could see her in the shot, right?
Yeah,
I'm surprised actually to see
if Chen Ping is in a Shaw Brothers film after about 1975, there's definitely a topless scene,
and we should thank the Lord for that. Thank the Oily Maniac. So
thank the Bunyan elders.
Right. So there's a bit of a kind of convoluted business, but basically it ends up in these bad guys. Ku Feng ends up killing one of Wang She's henchmen by accident, and therefore he is to be executed. But before he's executed, he teaches Danny. He said, "Look at this tattoo on my back. Look at this Malaysian tattoo. You read Malaysian, don't you? Because he might be half Malaysian or something. I'm not sure. He's got a tattoo on his back, which is I guess is some like a incantation.
The witch doctor's spell or something.
Yeah, a shaman. It's shaman, isn't it? Yeah. So he puts a bit of tracing paper on his back. Not quite sure how that works unless he has a very bumpy back. But anyway, he gets this incantation off his back before he's executed.
It's worth mentioning too that he has polio or has had polio as a child, so he's on crutches. Our hero.
Yeah,
right?
I suppose this is the C-Bong Bok hunchback thing. This time it's polio.
So that there is this element of that he is and that is important, I think, right? That he's a bit of an outsider.
So he's also works for Wang Che's law firm, Wang Che being a crooked lawyer, and he's kind of tasked with taking care of the daughter Champing in Ku Feng's absence, but almost immediately, Wang Che's bad guy hitmen are kind of, there's a few attempted rapes, right? And so in this version of the story, the oily maniac powers are to be for the good. So because he works at the law, so not only is he protecting Champing, but also because he has a bit of insider information about crooked deals going on at this law office. So he's like an avenger. He's like Daredevil or something like that, I suppose, right?
Yes, although looks more like Toxic Avenger or Swamp Thing.
Oh no! Hang on.
Ginger Dead.
That is far looking like Toxic Avenger or Swamp Thing is far too great a compliment to give this makeup.
Okay, looking like a wet turd.
Yeah, what is that 50s monster movie that's set in the jungle with the white-handled knife that gets stabbed in the tree monster?
Oh, From Hell It Came?
That's the one.
Right, yes, nearer to that territory. Even though, and I'm sure you're just about to add this corrective yourself, Darren, it does still look fucking cool. No?
No.
Really?
No, I quite like
it.
I'm a sucker for that crappy BBC Doctor Who 70s
don't get me wrong.
Monster stuff.
Don't get me wrong. I am immensely entertained by a bad rubber suit, but I think it's kind of for the period and for what else is going on in monster movies. Because in particular, actually, I'm jumping ahead a bit here. Because in particular, there's when the oily maniac turns into a puddle and kind of stalks people, which happens a number of times in the film. You get this kind of Jaws music.
Not this kind of Jaws music.
Yeah.
Jaws music.
The Jaws music.
Yeah.
Apparently, all this time wasn't composed by John Williams, as we all thought. It's the work of Frankie Chan.
Of course, it's Frankie Chan. Frankie Chan did all the best soundtracks.
Oh, yes, he's the hidden. He's like Zelig, right? He's behind all these musical movements. And as we know from our chat with Toby Russell, basically Frankie Chan is just a thief with a large record collection. Right?
Yeah, but that puts it in context, doesn't it? It's kind of
at the same time.
This was made 1 year before Star Wars,
right? But it's so much better.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. There's much more tits in it.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's good. So that's automatically an extra half a star there. So it turns out. Danny Lee decides, right, I have the power to do something to avenge. So
this is one connective piece of tissue to the original, is that when the guy dies and gives him the spell, he tells him again, if this is used for anything other than good, great disaster will befall you. So it's kind of, it is the same it comes with the same, let the buyer beware
caveat. Yeah. Now I understand he might have a bit of difficulty getting around because he's polio and he's got the crutches and everything. However, you still have to wonder. I was wondering about the logic of this. So he's like, I'm in a position where I have all this insider information about dealings. Should I maybe, I don't know, take it to the police or something, or should I, send it to a journalist or something anonymously, or even in my slightly incapacitated state, I could probably high lurk in the shadows of someone's apartment with a blowgun or a knife, or there's no. I think the best way to fight injustice is to dig a hole in the garden, sit in it and chant until oil bubbles up over my head. And then basically turn into a turd monster, and then just kind of. But that's fine with me. And and this is the second time I've seen this film now, is that every single time he turns into the oily maniac and goes, is a fucking joy. Every single time.
Yep.
Huge
Agreed.
smile on my face. I'm like, yes.
Yep. That's in my notes as well. It never got old for me.
No, it's amazing. And what I liked is the variety. So he at first I thought, he has to go through this. He has to sit in the hole and do the chant and blah, blah, blah. But it turns out I think you only have to do that like the first time or something. And then after that, this is the point where he finds out about some bad bit of business, and he's like, I got to do something about this. And he just happens to be walking past a petrol station.
Yeah.
And he just sprays himself with diesel straight from the pump. It's fucking. I had so much fun with the transformation scenes in this film. It's just, what a joy.
I almost felt it was like Superman looking for like a phone booth at one point, like, particularly when he found that barrel of bubbling creosote on the road.
There's the bubbling tar.
Jumps in.
Yeah, there's like a road gun tarmacking, right? And he's like, they're like, dude, don't! And they actually try and stop him, like, no, that's boiling oil, and he jumps in. It's just, fucking great stuff.
Yeah, I mean, with the recent issues in Ukraine,
yes,
and our dependence on fossil fuels, particularly from Russia,
yes,
from the east, for us Westerners, it does highlight how present fossil fuels and oils are in our lives.
Right.
Because Danny Lee has no fucking problem at all finding some oil to turn it into the oil
wherever he is.
And how quickly that those things we depend on can turn into monsters.
Exactly. See?
Prescient. See?
Oh, it is. It is. It's almost as if we knew.
Yeah.
It's almost as if we knew this would happen.
So Oily Maniac, basically runs around attacking all the bad guys, saves Champing from being raped a few times, but not until after we get to see her tits. And then there's also Wang She's kind of girlfriend, who I think is played by Angela Yu Chen, who at one point he goes parking with, right? They go like, it's still an
to make out mountain.
Oh, like
Malaysia.
For middle-aged people to do for a start, but also they go to like not a very secluded place at all.
There's a bunch of people just parked at the corner of this road.
Yeah,
humping.
And there's street lights everywhere. Like it's really well lit.
But then again, I suppose, here in Japan, you do have this sense of immense, in a kind of crammed urban space. The Japanese have been really good at compartmentalizing things, where it's just like, if you assign an area then it's fine. Like over there, that's it may be within spitting distance of the church or the convenience store or the clinic, but that is the BDSM zone, and as long as you do it there, that's fine.
We all know, just to
so
to walk on by.
Yeah.
But that scene is great. Actually, that scene is great because that's one of the, because obviously that oily maniac shows up, and that's when he jumps on the car and then just kind of pours himself down across the windshield and the side windows, and then suddenly appears in the front seat, and it's awesome. It's a great moment.
Yeah, and then it's something a bit gory. You don't really see it, but does he even rip off his head?
It seems like he's
he crushes his head like a watermelon.
Right. And then what I liked as well is so he strangles the woman to death, and then just before he leaves, he splays her legs just to add insult to injury, or something, just to totally display her to the world or to shame her or something.
But it is worth mentioning that there isn't the rape element to this, right? That's one feature where, I mean, there is a rape element, but it's not coming from the oily maniac.
No.
And yet it's 100 times sleazier without being.
It's great. I like it because I was thinking about this as well. This is the other thing. People who know Shaw Brothers only for their martial arts stuff, because this stuff doesn't really appear so much. You get the gore, but I think unless you watched non-martial arts Shaw Brothers, you don't realize quite how they went for the sleeves, right? Like, they weren't shy about going for the sleeves when they decided to go for it, right?
Yeah.
No, it reminds me more of Japanese stuff in that way. Like when because I've mostly seen non-sleazy Chinese stuff. Right. So I was kind of like, oh, this reminds me more of that 70s gritty, because
it doesn't turn up so much in the period stuff. I think that's why it tends to be the more modern day stuff. So and that's obviously somewhat less seen or less celebrated, right? So yes, I think people are not quite as au fait with the sleazy side of Shaw as they should be, because it's a great deal of fun. Right?
Shaw by night.
Yeah, Shaw by night. But yeah,
well, we spoke about it. We spoke about it on the other podcast, didn't we? On the Echa Films.
Yes.
And we had worked out that Shaw Brothers are the people that managed to import tits into Hammer.
Right.
Yes.
In Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires.
Yeah.
So this Angela Yuchen character is also a very bad plastic surgeon.
Oh, yes.
Who fucks up this woman's breast. It looks like she's
quite spectacular.
Oh no, hang on. You got it wrong.
Is that
no? I think she's just a client. She's just a client.
No, Angela Yuchen is the drunk girl, or not the drunk girl, the rape victim who cons the.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a great little Rashomon scene.
Yeah. The court.
They each give their own testimony that completely contradicts the previous, and they film both versions.
Yes. A cake.
Yeah, both really sleazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cake and eat it territory there. I think. Yeah. There's like, oh yeah, we have a sympathetic character, so we want, but at the same time, we want to see her with her clothes off, so we better show the other side of it.
Yeah. And when they show the flashback of when she's raped, they even put her in pigtails.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yes. Yeah.
So she's either a vamp victim,
or a victim. Yeah, because
she's
a schoolgirl victim. Yeah.
Because Champing as well, through a lot of the film, has pigtails, right? Because that's how you can tell, right? That's how you know if a girl is innocent, is she has the pigtails. And I do like me some pigtails. But anyway, that's another podcast. The pigtail cast, which I do on the dark web. So
I believe it.
So this is also, and that's also the Coconut Grove guy, right? That's him being set up. So then, can split the proceeds with them. So that's Angela. Yeah, so she's different from the plastic surgeon, right? But anyway, and also just to ramp up the sleaze factor, what I like, and they don't explicitly say this, but I was reading between the lines. Does she also has a side business in
fake virgins?
Reapplying hymens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Yes. Yeah. So there's a pimp there, and he's like, "Do a better job. That last girl didn't hardly bled when my client penetrated her." Oh, here we go. So then you get an awesome hymen reattachment surgery scene, which again the oily maniac kind of interrupts and stomps the fucking surgeon to death as well.
Yeah.
What I love about that particular scene that I burst out laughing when I saw it. Is you've got this sort of oily maniac who's kind of an avenger, isn't he? He's kind of a righteous he's a righteous monster, isn't he? He only goes after the bad people, and yet he turns up to this this surgeon's surgery, this the operating theatre.
Yeah.
Because he's found out as Danny Lee, the man on crutches, that they're dodgy, and immediately attacks the pimp and the surgeon who's doing dodgy stuff. But in the process, and the girl, there's this innocent girl on the operating table, just flips the innocent girl along the table.
Collateral damage.
Yeah, exactly. Just flips her as if he's flipping a desk.
Yeah, and there's a bit more nudity there as well, right? There's any excuse for a bit of... so there's a nice variety of... no full frontal, I don't think, though, right? It's all...
No.
That would have been...
how he finds out about the dodgy surgeon is he finds this tape recording of the dodgy lawyer talking to the dodgy doctor, or rather talking to a victim of the dodgy doctor.
Yes.
And the dodgy lawyer insists on seeing the botched boob job.
Yeah. I have to know what I'm... Yeah, I have to know what we're talking about, yes.
And of course, us as the audience also have to see the dodgy boob job.
Yes.
Which is so unnecessary.
And also the other one, right? So it's like sweet and sour. It's like one of those weird things, right? It's like those old VD films or something where you got to see a vagina, but only if it was covered in pustules or had a baby bursting out of it, like a baby. It's like that kind of thing. Is there's like but then on the other hand, weird morality at work here.
Yes,
but yeah. So I would like to speak a little bit of that because a pet peeve of mine, and just to show how much I enjoy. I mean, this is not a classic film anymore, but it's good old-fashioned creature feature plus sleaze, in the same way as that movie Humanoids from the Deep was.
Yeah,
a little bit. Although not.
I was going to make that exact comparison.
Right.
Yeah.
Not
and also
quite
in that
as
never
good
a
as
dull
that.
moment. There's really very little. There's very little downtime in this movie. It kind of starts out and it just hurtles along. At a reckless pace right to the very end.
Yes. Yes. It's just it barrels along, right, and not quite as good as Humanoids from the Deep. I'd say it is kind of a bit, it's a bit on the wonky side, but fun all the way. And it says a lot that I enjoyed it as much as I did, because a pet peeve for me in films, I'm a big fan of internal logic in films. Like, something doesn't necessarily have to make sense or be realistic, but when you do have some fantasy element or a superhero or something, I quite like there to be an internal logic, right? And this film has fuck all, right? So the oily maniac I have no idea why the oily maniac, if he lies down on the floor rather clumsily, I quite like those scenes as well, can suddenly turn into an animated patch that can move at high speeds along the road, in the water. It can get inside operating theatres. It can get inside a car. At some point, it turns
up a bath.
In a woman's bath. Yeah. How did he get in there? So how this thing travels about, and the other thing as well is it's a big reveal. So Lily, as well as in it, we should say, as the nice girl, right? She's the nice secretary, right?
Sorry, I've got to interrupt you. This is as good as Lily ever looked.
Right? Yeah. She's.
Sorry, I've got to say,
she
is amazingly cute in this film.
And she finds that in his house under a carpet there's a hole full of oil, right? And he lies down on the carpet, and then he turns back into him. And what's all that about? Does the oil go through why does he have a hole? Like none of it actually makes any sense. But I don't care. and for me that means a lot. That means that this film, it just works on a level of fuck it, I don't care, you can do whatever you want, as long as every 5-10 minutes that oily maniac goes and then we have some tits and some sleeves in the interim. Good. And then the oily maniac suddenly starts spitting oil at people as well.
Oh yes, quite near the end.
That's fun. And we find out that you can shove swords through him, but he's not impervious to bullets.
No, you can cut his head off as well.
And it grows back. And his arm. That's cool. Yeah. That was great when his head grew back. It's a nice bit of stop motion, right?
And he dissolves as well, doesn't he? He liquefies in a special effect as well. Yeah.
This all anticipates James Cameron's Terminator 2 by 20-something years, right? Like the T-1000, all that stuff that it does.
We got it now, right. Robert Zemeckis was at home and he was having a few cans and he invited James Cameron round. And James Cameron's like, I'm working on my miniatures. Come on, fucking take a break. Come over. All right. Comes over. They watch a double bill of SUMPAH Orange MINYAK, which Robert Zemeckis takes off and rips off and makes Back to the Future. And James Cameron decides to have himself some oily maniac and creates the T-1000. Yep. I think, without a doubt, that is what...
No question.
Yeah.
Well, and of course, there's that line as well where Danny Lee says to Lily Lee, come with me if you want to live.
Yep.
Right.
Bang to rights.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we better correct the record because none of us laughed at that, and that actually isn't in the film.
There's this thing that Asian cinema, the Japanese cinema, and the Chinese cinema, and the Korean cinema does really well. It's this kind of shorthand, right? And where they can get something across in a really quick and it's like by using certain tropes. And I feel like I can watch a Japanese, like a crappy soap opera thing, and it will bring me to tears with one or two little deft touches. And so there's a great scene quite near the beginning where he's really earnestly trying to explain to what's her pickle, the daughter of the guy who's died, I promised your dad I'm going to protect you. And she just glances at his crutches.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, you see he's crushed by, and there's no word said, but it's just an immediate and then almost the next scene is him okay, I'm going to do the spell.
Well, yeah, because he also learns as well that later on that she's seeing another guy, right?
Yes. Yes.
And again, actually in a storm.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, I thought that too. Yeah, that took me back to the original.
And that bends him ever so slightly misogynist at that point, isn't he? He's like, women, and that's when it starts to turn a little bit dark, when he might not just be doing this for the good of mankind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it goes further than that, doesn't it? Because he actually proposes to Chen Ping as well, doesn't he?
Yes.
There's actually a marriage proposal, and she's throughout a few scenes in the film, she's kind of very much holding him at arm's length.
Right.
He's not getting it, which is not to say that this is he's an incel hero or anything, because in the end he turns out to be he flies off the handle, and he is actually kind of one of the villains of the film.
Mm-hmm.
But
yes.
I think that you emotional shorthand, in Chinese film, certainly Shaw Brothers and Hong Kong films, they really, really, really do know how to do that.
Well, I think it's a lack of irony or second guessing or shaming. It's like, well, let's just do it. Let's just do it.
Mm.
And and it stands up fine. There's no need for a wink or to postmodern it or anything.
There's no subtext.
Yeah. So spoilers, of course, and so eventually Lily, because she's not exactly, she doesn't go up a tower, but she kind of the Fey Ray of the piece, I guess, and ends up burning. As soon as it happened, I thought, of course, why did no one think of this before?
Set him on fire.
Obviously, he's made of flammable stuff.
There is the scene earlier, because I was laughing when he does show up at the construction site, and the barrel is flaming underneath, and he just comes, he's just splashing himself with oil right next to this fire, and I'm like, well, hang on, that doesn't seem like a very smart thing.
That's
to do.
not a good idea. So in the end, it is the old "'twas beauty killed the beast" ending, right? But yeah, goddamn, this was. I enjoyed the fuck out of this the first time I saw it. I enjoyed it as much as I might not be rushing out to watch it again like tomorrow, but in a few years, I'm sure I will enjoy this all over again. You both seem to have had pretty much the same experience.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It
was the first time you'd seen it, right, Nick?
Oh yeah. No, I'd never seen it before. And you know, again, like, although it is what it is, and it's pretty trashy, pretty fun. But again, you know, with Shaw, there's always a certain attention to detail. Like, everything's framed nicely. There's a great scene where what's her face again, the daughter, because she does come a cropper, right? We haven't really touched on that, but she doesn't have a very good ending, right? She ends up getting lured by her fiance to the coconut oil factory, where she's basically given to another guy, one of the other villains, to rape, right?
Yeah. This was my favorite moment of distressed nudity from her in this film as well. That really exciting.
But there's quite an amazing piece of framing, because then her sketchy fake fiance is leering at her, and then there's this big pipe between them spurting all of this coconut oil out, and then she's behind that, and it was like, ooh,
I told you this was a good scene.
Is text.
Yes.
And then she sees a hook.
Yes. Yeah.
And then she's dead.
Yes.
Yeah. It's pretty.
That's like
long.
Nicely charged
shorthand.
Nicely charged scene.
But yeah, I mean, there is an enormous, considering the folkloric rapist monster, the oily maniac, doesn't actually rape anyone in this film. There are an incredible amount of rapes in this film.
I guess they knew that the audience for an oily maniac film was expecting
that.
Right.
So, but they decided to make him more, as I said, the Swamp Thing, Toxic Avenger version of oily maniac.
It's interesting as well. So as far as we're concerned, because we only know about, so there's the SUMPAH Orang. Sorry, we should mention as well. Keep an eye out for Yang Wu Ping and Kori Yang Kwai, by the way.
And Yin Chen Yan.
Right. So so as far as we're concerned, you've got the SUMPAH Orang MINYAK, and then the Shaw's rival studio, Cathay, who also had their own Malay Cathay Keris branch. They brought out a few Orang Minyak films of themselves. Orang Minyak and Seranggang Orang Minyak from 1958. So there's that cluster. And then it seems as if there's nothing until 1976, as far as we know. And then in more recent years, you've had another Orang Minyak in 1987. And then the Orang Minyak versus Mongs in the Pontiac crossover film from 2012.
That seems like a comedy.
I took a
from scanning through it on YouTube. I was like, this doesn't seem like it's taking any of this very seriously.
Yeah, well, you know, Mongs in the Pontiac. I mean, hilarious, isn't it? But but there seems to be this gap between.
You just put this image in my head.
Yes. Turn left. So between the late 50s and the 70s, as far as we can tell, there's nothing going on. But there must have been enough of a. I mean, number one, for Shaw Brothers to make an oily maniac film, but then also to have to go to the, like, why not just make it in Hong Kong? Like, to explicitly make the connection, you know, because it's not just, they say that this is shot in Malaysia and they make a big deal out of it. So this whole oily maniac thing must have had loomed larger in popular culture than seems to us now, right? It's the only takeaway I could take from it.
Yeah, I mean, it must have cross-pollinated, mustn't it? You know, because it is a Malay thing. You know, and I don't think that Shaw's was scraping the bottom of the barrel in 1976.
No, absolutely.
You know, they had plenty going on in 1976. Right. So it's not like we're at the we're at the death of Shaw's where they're grasping at anything that they can get to to make a bit of money at the box office. So this must have caused a stir in Malaysia, or enough of a stir in Malaysia for it to make it back to Hong Kong and other territories.
Well, it's interesting as well because I suppose the comparable thing is so when they teamed up to make Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, like that made more sense to us because we're familiar with that vampire mythology and those movies. But I'm wondering if there was comparable, like they take on this mythology and Hammer, and now along the same lines, let's go for this Malay stuff. So yeah, I don't know. And again, I've looked around. I can't really. I don't know. I mean, who knows? There might have been things going on in the culture that we just don't have a clue. No one remembers now. Like there might have been an Orang Minyak comic or something that came out, was a hit, or even like a silly novelty pop song. Here comes the orange Minyak or something like that.
Yeah, like the Blob or something. Yeah.
So exactly. So that all that kind of stuff is. So if anyone knows more than us, which isn't hard, let us know. Write in, email, whatever, carrier pigeon. Just let us know if you know more about the oily maniac than we do. But we do at least know that these two films are a good time.
I will say too, I was like by the end of Oily Maniac, it almost becomes a brawler. Like there's this moment where like there was more fisticuffs in that last chunk of the movie than I expected, because up until then it had been more stalkery, horror-y, and then suddenly it's this extended fist fight, and machete fight that just kind of goes on for a while. It seemed more Shaw to me in that final moment, I think, than what had gone before. It kind of suddenly was like, oh, we're in the action movie territory.
Yeah, choreographed by the. Hang on, I'll check. Yeah, choreographed by the same man who choreographed the two Charlie's Angels films in the early 2000s.
Nice.
Okay. Interesting.
Yin Chen Yan.
Right. Much more entertaining than both of those.
Yeah.
Oh no, I actually like those films.
You?
Yeah, I really do.
Anyway,
yeah. Right. But also, Miracle Fighters and Drunken Tai Chi.
Yeah.
And
although I would hesitate. I would hesitate. I wouldn't say check out this film for the martial arts. I mean,
no.
No.
But if you like shitty rubbery suits, and if you have a like for tokusatsu kind of like Ultraman-y kind of stuff, that's more the level I was enjoying it.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And there's some backwards jumping, isn't there? There's some backwards jumping.
Yeah. Oh yeah, lots of great.
No doubt.
Lots of great hopping about.
Yeah.
Right. I think we should wrap this up because this is getting quite long now. And that's it. Unless either of you have some amusing note to leave us on.
No, I think unless my script for the Petroleum Pervert is interesting to anyone out there in Hollywood, get in touch.
Petroleum Pervert versus Mongs in Pontiac. So,
there we go.
It's a winner.
James Cameron, Rob Zemeckis, if you're listening. Until next time, this has been In ShawScope with me, Clive Davis, and them.
Okay, I'll go.
We always fuck this bit up. Right. From now on, it's me, Dad, and Nick. Right, let's do that again.
Perfect.
Okay.
Right. And that's from In ShawScope and me, Clive Davis.
Who is it again?
Fuck off.